Ben, good afternoon. Let me bring in Simon as well. Simon's been waiting there for a while. Simon, we'll be with you in a minute, mate.
Is my mic all right, by the way?
It is absolutely perfect. Ben, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I'm quite all right. A little bit sleepy.
Sorry, one sec, yep. Simon. Ben, your mic is muted, by the way. We can't hear you. Simon, just going to give...
I've got him, Paul.
Have you?
Oh, that's better. Yeah. I can hear you now, Ben. Simon, I'm just going to chat with Ben and we'll bring you on in a second.
Right.
Welcome back.
Let me know if anything happens. Oh, yeah. Thank you very much.
Welcome back, Ben.
Thanks. Right. So I have a few points, but I'll only get to some bits because, of course, it's on topic this time. So I was, of course, doing my research before, and I look into all these news videos and so forth, like Talk TV and GB News and Good Morning Britain sometimes, but not as much as Good Morning Britain. But regarding the face coverings and just schools in general, some of these families of ours were basically saying that there's actually not enough people, like not enough placement for the kids to actually go in because there's such a massive influx from these, I say, external families. It's getting to the point where it's, I don't know, it's just too out of hand. Like, truly, we need to really be caring to our own people first. But with these burqas and niqabs, it makes me think about how, I believe it was Iran, currently, they enacted the law that basically makes it so that women just cannot speak in public. And that's just wild. But as a kid, for myself, back then, when I was back at school, it was tall, dark, and scary. Like, it's not
a great first impression, is it?
No, it doesn't fit in, really, does it?
It's not a good introduction, yeah.
And with all these times before where if we actually paid attention to some of these news stories that happened before some of this agenderizing happened, it would be the case that you'd have some of the footage, and without getting too graphic about it, of course, it's how they hide themselves, and it's the case that they weaponized women for some of these events. And it's just purely upsetting because it truly does, like, even to my current point, it's not I want to be away from these people entirely. It's I have to be aware just for my own safety. It's like head on a swivel kind of energy. And like, I wouldn't want, because of all this, there's more than just that kind of a thing occurring. There's also the woke stuff that's occurring. That's also something if I had kids, I would not want anywhere near my kids. It's just a letdown that it's something that we get one serving of the actual spoon of, and they get entirely different. It's
an interesting point. I mean, I get what you're saying. Simon, good afternoon. Can you hear us all right, mate?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate.
Good man, Simon. Did you have something to say on the veil, or was it on a different subject?
It is to do with the veil. I mean, the full face veil is something that if you're gonna wear the full face veil, I think it should definitely be banned in public buildings, in schools, and around anywhere where kids congregate, because there's kids out there that are seeing the veil for the first time, and I've seen kids when I'm walking, they're looking at the veil, a woman dressed in a full veil, and you can see the expression on the kid's face, like, what is that? What am I looking at? Is there a person underneath that? Is there a ghost underneath that? Is there a dog under? We don't know. And even when these parents are going to pick up the children at the school, we don't know if it's the actual parent underneath the veil.
Yeah,
it could be a total stranger picking up those children. So we should implement a law like France has done to ban it. Why is it France and so many other EU countries are taking up this law to ban the full face veil, but yet Britain is a soft touch?
Yeah, good point, Simon. I mean, I would agree. I mean, there's another wider issue here as well, guys, which people may actually not have picked up on, but I will do, is that it's not helping with the integration of the parents either. You know, so if you're picking your kid up from school wearing a full face veil, where nobody can see you, it's far less likely that the other parents are going to interact with you, invite your kids round to play after school, invite those children back to your home so that all the children can integrate. So I think that possibly the children actually suffer as well. The children of the person wearing the veil, they're a victim too. It's alienating them. You know, can you imagine when they go to school the next day? You know, a lot of the kids are they're inquisitive at that age. They're gonna go, "Why does your mum wear a mask?" You know, and what is the answer to that for a 5-year-old? Isn't that confusing for both the children? Isn't that pulling them apart at the age of 5 instead of them uniting and being able to be friends? And you know, I mean, let's be honest as well. Would you allow your child? Let's say your kid comes out of school one afternoon and says, "Oh, Mum, Dad, I've made a really good friend in school. His name's whatever, right? Can I go back to their house and play tonight?" And you go, "Well, where's their mum?" And it's a person that you can't even see. What are you going to say? You're going to say, "No, I don't even know who's underneath it." You know, or you're going to want to go and have a conversation. Now, when I'm having a conversation, if someone wants to invite one of my kids back to their home for tea or to play, I want to look that person in the eye. I want to get a handle of who am I dealing with here? What are these people like? So I think it's the wider problem, not only for our community, but for their community as well, is that it doesn't help with any type of integration whatsoever, and it's damaging to all the kids.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, with the full face veil, I mean, you see them going into the job center and claiming benefits, and then how do we know another person wearing a full face veil isn't going to come along and make another claim, but they're the same person with 2 claims now? How do we don't know? We haven't got a clue. One person could be making 4 or 5 different claims under different names, different addresses, different whatever. You know, the full face veil should not be a part of any community.
What area do you live in, Simon? Just the area, roughly. What area?
Unfortunately, I live in South London near Croydon.
Okay, so it's an attire that you're going to be very familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed it over the years that it's becoming very, very popular, and I'm seeing it a lot more. Considering from when I grew up in the 90s to now, I can see a woman in a veil probably 7, 8, 9 times a day.
I would have thought more than that in Croydon, but yeah, I mean, I haven't been to Croydon for years, but I mean, I met my wife in Croydon. That's the only good thing that ever came out of Croydon for me, with all due respect.
Yeah, there's nothing. There is literally nothing good in Croydon. Croydon, it's a cesspit. Croydon used to be so beautiful back in the day. It was a lovely area. I used to go out with my mates, play knockdown ginger, play hopscotch and all sorts. But now, yeah, you'll be lucky if you see a kid just going for a walk to the sweet shop. You don't even see that no more. It's
not just Croydon, mate. It's not just
Croydon. It's all over.
It's most of London.
Yeah, and Simon, coming from South London and an area that I know very well, I'm guessing that you have a very wide mix of ethnic friends from different ethnic backgrounds.
Well, I will say this: the majority of my friends are from ethnic backgrounds, but I probably have about 4 or 5 that are white. The rest are all black or Asian or Middle Eastern.
And what's the general feeling amongst them? How do they feel about this? Because you obviously feel a certain way. And I would imagine at times you must have these conversations. What is the general consensus of opinion from your friends of different ethnic backgrounds?
I mean, one thing I have noticed is that, especially among my black friends, they are saying that they don't like the way the country is heading. The white community is being pushed out of this country. You know, it shouldn't be like this. There shouldn't be more one race here, one race there, this, that, and the other. This country should be majority white because it is an indigenous white country. And this is not me saying that. This is coming from my black friends that are saying this. So the fact that even they alone are saying that shows that it's not just white people that are concerned with what's going on. It's every ethnicity is concerned with what's going on in this country. The demographics are changing. You know, I'm a minority in London, as in many major cities up and down the country. White people are a minority. And I'm not saying that.
Do you feel, let me ask you, do you feel Do you feel at a disadvantage being white in Croydon now?
Yeah, definitely.
Why?
I mean,
why? Tell me why.
I could walk through Croydon, and there used to be a British butcher's that I used to go to. My mum, my family, we used to go to a lot. Run by an Irish family, beautiful Irish family, and now it's an halal butcher's. Every time I go into Croydon, every probably second shop, it's an Islamic shop. I'm not seeing no British shop. I'm not seeing no culture for myself. I'm seeing the Islamic culture more than my own culture. And I just feel segregated.
Didn't they say it's around 44% foreign, basically, in London these days?
44%. Yeah, I think it's
Around
something
that.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really sad to hear, Simon. I mean, look, we're not saying that what you're experiencing is causing any problems, as in like from a what's the right word, a safety viewpoint, but you feel misplaced. Is that what you're saying? You feel misplaced?
I feel misplaced, but on a safety note, it is unsafe as well. I mean, with recent times, as every white person can say, being white in this country, it's like we are a target. I know I shouldn't say that. I know it's probably wrong to say that, but it's a fact.
If you start seeing patterns, you're not in the wrong for recognizing patterns. Like, I mean, it's just truth of the eyes at that point. You're just seeing what you're seeing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could say probably within the past 5 months, there's been times within the 5 months, I would probably say on 8 different occasions where I've had Muslim men coming up to me saying that I'm a kafir, I shouldn't be in the area, I should worship Muhammad, this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, do I need to start fighting? Like, I'm surrounded sometimes. I've got 8, 9, 10 of them around me. And I'm thinking, do I need to start defending myself? Because I'm not a violent person. I don't want to go out there and look for a fight. I'm happy to defend myself more than everybody, but I shouldn't have to live like that. I should be able to walk out my door, go into my town centre and feel safe.
Are these street preachers, Simon?
Street preachers, or just random people? Okay. I'll just be walking and random.
And are they? And again, I'm just asking you for opinion. Are they showing levels of aggression with this, or is it a polite approach?
There's been 3 occasions when there has been aggression. There's been 3 occasions.
So I've looked into this as well, and once you start to learn some of the actual verses that is in the Quran, they start off with an invitation, and if you don't take the invitation, that's basically like 1 strike. But if they find that you're another religion, they offer you again, but if you decline, they then say to you that you have to pay something called jizya. And that is a tax to basically stay in your own religion. Otherwise, it's a kind of, it's when you hear the actual lines of the Quran, it's baffling the stuff that they wanted to push out if it's Sharia, like hands down law.
But I think this is the problem we have. I mean, a lot of people in Britain, they don't look into Islam. They don't understand the Quran. They've never read the Quran. I've read the Quran. I've looked into Islam. I know what it's about. And Muslims will they lie consistently. It's a consistent lie they always tell, that Islam is peaceful. It's not. There literally is no sort of peace under Islam. I'm sorry, it's a fact. You have to tell us what it is.
For the sake of or for the benefit of trying to keep this show not neutral, but fair, level-headed, I've got to say there's no one here from the Islamic community to defend that. But I think you know what you're saying. I think a lot of people will accept. If there is anyone from the Islamic community that would like to hop on, you get a very, very friendly welcome. And
somebody also asked that you put the link back in the chat just to refresh.
Yeah. And here's the other thing as well. I think I would say that, look, I've got to say that of all the Muslim people that I know, not one of them has ever put pressure on me to convert. So I think that is that sort of problem, Simon, is not strictly relevant to, but definitely more prevalent in areas like Croydon.
Yeah. I mean,
I think you're far more likely to get that than in, say, Brighton.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, but what we need to do is, I mean, there are so many brilliant Muslims in this country. They are absolutely brilliant Muslims. They contribute to the country so beautifully. But what we need to do is we need to differentiate who the radicals are and who are the
Yes.
non. That's what that. When we have these talks about Islam, this is what people need to understand. There are two different types of Muslim. There are the radicals and there are the non-radicals. You can't just put every Muslim in one basket. You cannot do that. It's so unfair.
There's the different subcategories as well. There's the Shia, and then the Sunni.
Yeah, Sunni,
Sunni ones, I believe, are the moderates, but they also get attacked by the others a bit.
Simon, you've been an absolutely amazing guest. Please do pop on again sometime. Would love to have you back, my friend. I'm going to bring in Lily. Simon, thank you so much for your input. You've been amazing. And I'll speak to you again soon. Let me bring in Lily. Good afternoon, Lily. Can you hear me?
Wonderful.
How are you doing?
I'm all right.
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. What would you like to say?
I'm getting a little bit of. I haven't got headphones on, so it's a little bit. I'm doing good though.
Okay.
It's a bit slow on the mic. Basically.
Lily, I'll tell you what it is. Darling. We can't really hear you because you haven't got. If you've got any headphones, that would be amazing. I'll just.
I will.
I'll kick you out for a minute, and I'll try and bring you back in when you got your headphones, darling. Okay, guys. So look, I mean, that was really good. I felt. Let me just go through a couple of the super chats. I think I've done this one. Yeah, have indeed. Thank you very much, Simon. Silver Lady, please don't let this happen. Danny, France and a few EU countries have banned the burqa for a few years now. Why not in the UK? Agree. Nina Banana again, Paul. If I come in your chat, you'll definitely kick me off. I'm that angry. I will not stop swearing. Can't do that, Nina. Steve, well done for bigging up Drain the Hate. That was a really good interview yesterday, I feel. Matty, thank you. The government banger on about integration. It's a bit hard when you can't even see their face. Absolutely spot on. Queen Hyena, thanks for all you do. I left England a few years ago and it's heartbreaking to see some of this stuff, but so good that there are people uniting this country. We are doing our absolute best. Let's see if I can bring back in Lily for a minute. Lily, are you there now? Can you hear us? Lily, I've lost altogether. We have Arul, is that right? Arul, is that your correct name? Let me just see if I can bring the next guest in. Hold on a minute. Arul, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, by God says, okay, how are you guys doing?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. Lovely to see you. What have you got to say?
Is the audio okay?
The audio is fantastic.
Lovely. I'm a Christian preacher myself from Speaker's Corner.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might have seen me. It's lovely to see you all. I've been
Thank
sort
you.
of passively following some of your guys' work, especially in the last few months. So it's really lovely that people are getting clued up, you know, because I began preaching at Speaker's Corner in 2008. Wow. And we had the previous version of Islam back then. Now, you know, with even before Hamas, you know, with all the Israel-Gaza conflict, there was already another version that we moved into, and now we are all together in the latest version. So it's really interesting to see all of you guys beginning to talk about this in public, which is really
just 1 second, Lily. Sure. I will bring you back in a moment. I can still see you in a waiting room. Don't leave. I'll bring you back in a few minutes. Carry on.
Did you want to bring it on first, and I can wait for 5 minutes?
No. Carry on. We're at, okay. I want to hear what you got to say, because Speaker's Corner is a bit of a lion's den these days, right?
Oh, it is. You know, it's really no. Until 5-6 years ago, things were very different. But last 5-6 years, things have really changed, and yeah, it's really sort of.
In what way? Tell us how it's changed.
Until maybe 6 years ago, even though things could be really heated at times, no one was going to think that anyone was going to physically assault anyone. Although that did happen, maybe once a year, twice a year, you know, nasty stuff happened, but nothing beyond perhaps, you know, a non-premeditated attack.
Yeah.
But the last 5-6 years, things are very different. You might have heard about the knifing of this Christian preacher, Sister Hatun.
Yeah.
And I think world over, they're realizing at Speaker's Corner, certain things are happening which cannot happen elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
And the powers to be in the Islamic religious centers are unhappy, but they just don't know what to do. They don't want to do anything obviously wrong. They're trying to play a little game here, And I don't know if you know, since the time you might be aware of Hatun Tash,
Yes, yeah.
Since the time she was knifed, which was the first time in my entire experience at Speaker's Corner, someone showed up post-COVID or sort of at the tail end of COVID with a mask on. But since that time, could you believe people come there mostly from the Islamic Dawah gang, left, right, and center, randomly with the masks on? And I'm really thinking, I'm seeing a pattern. I'm really seeing a pattern where people are trying to normalize wearing a COVID mask at Speaker's Corner. So things they can do something at some stage if they wanted to, sort of stuff. And that's the pattern I'm saying. My personal observation.
Yeah.
So things are very different now.
What do you think about the police reaction to some of what's been going on at Speaker's Corner? I mean, Speaker's Corner is the home of free speech, but there is a line between free speech and hate speech and threatening, abusive actions. What do you make of the way the police have been dealing with it up there at Speaker's Corner?
The great thing is, at least with the Christian side, and in my view, most of the non-Muslim side, especially the ones who deal with Islam, they are really people who are clued up. They know what they're dealing with, and they are quite stable. So even though they essentially deal with the subject matter, not the people at hand. And so at Speaker's Corner, it's even though the debates are intense, the non-Christians keep it non-personal and focused on the subject, in my view, again. Would you believe the police have actually, in the last, I would say, just 1 month, a month and a half, they have thoroughly changed at Speaker's Corner. God knows why, It might be, I don't know where, but clearly I can see a pattern just in the last month and a half where they're, of course, we talk about two-tier Britain elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it used to be two-tier Britain in Speaker's Corner also. But just in the last month and a half, I see a complete change where they're really, really, focusing on criminality, not some, sort of acting like middlemen sort of stuff.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, credit where it's due. If they've been clamping down on anyone that is, getting involved in nefarious behaviour or threatening behaviour, then I believe they should clamp down on that. Because from what I've seen at Speaker's Corner, and I was up there myself not that long ago. Danny, you was with us, weren't you, Danny?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
It could easily turn into being a very intimidating, hostile environment, and that's not what Speaker's Corner should be about.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, that's one of the changes in the last 6 years. Prior to that, there'll be persistent heckling, which is fun. Yeah. Heckling was very integral to Speaker's Corner. Yeah. Heckling actually made your point come out really well. Because there are opposite views coming up, and therefore, if you can face that and still can give a reason, then of course truth shines better.
That's enjoyable. That's enjoyable, right? Yeah.
Challenge is good. People can agree all day long, no problem at all. But you are right. In the last 6 years, especially in the last 6 years, things became physically intimidating. And that, but through God's grace, we are pushing on. We are continuing because we want to make sure through God's grace, free speech prevails there. And in my mind, even though maybe spending time in college campuses and elsewhere and so on could be very productive for example, for this kind of work that I do. Apart from that, on top of that, for me to remain at Speaker's Corner is very important for these, to preserve the soul of our nation, if you see what I mean.
And do you feel the soul of our nation, the fact that a lot of people have really sort of, and again, I say this as a cultural Christian rather than a practicing one. Do you think that people have turned away from Christianity in this country? Do you think that turning back to Christianity would be important for our future?
But absolutely, although I slightly, fine-tune that, turning back to Jesus, not the religion per se, but the person himself is very important. I genuinely think that most people are really yearning for, they don't know who, but that's actually Jesus, someone who stands up for morality, someone who can be courageous at the face of absolute gibberish nonsense that's thrown at him and so on. So I genuinely think, and this is why part of the work that I'm doing, the team that I'm in, the work that we are doing, we are launching this campaign called Back to Jesus. We really, really think coming back to Jesus is very, very important. Islam is actually a very fake alternative. It's a what's the term? It's a fake, you Paul, I realize, in your, of course, you are into some sort of watch trading and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
I really,
yeah.
You would appreciate,
replica. I know what you mean.
Imitation and so on. Islam is practically, I hate to say, I don't like this. This is many times very depressing, but I have a Quran all the time at my desk, because in the last 1 year, 2 years, I've been breathing Quran, eating, breathing, and sleeping Quran. Is that Pepsi's advertisement a while ago? And it's a fake religion, and I'm working on 2 books especially right now, and two things. One, I think the country really lacks a proper insight into Christianity and Jesus. I genuinely think
the community, like the core values of community that we've forgotten from past times, Christian values itself, how we used to run it. We used to rely on each other more than we used to rely on flipping Amazon or like Deliveroo or whatever the heck. But it's issues that we have like that, and forgetting what kind of people we are. We are of a Christian nation, along with all the others in Europe, majority of the others in Europe. But sorry for interrupting.
No, fine. Carry on.
Oh. No, it's very important. This is part of my. Of course, I'm not English, but one of the things which is in my heart is that I'd really like the English, the Scottish, the Welsh, and the Irish to really take this ownership for the precious Lord Jesus Christ, and run with it. Essentially, we are a thinking nation, but we are at the tail end of being a thinking nation now. We're sort of, losing track of it with multiculturalism. The way we are evaluating now is no longer based on evidence and truth, but rather based on belief systems. Hey, he has this belief system.
Sorry, I find that also they are trying to tell us how to think instead of have your own critical thinking skills.
Absolutely. The recalibration is happening as to how we think. So the thinking nation that we owe our culture out and out to the biblical worldview. The moment we lose it, we have lost our soul. And with multiculturalism, with Islam, you lose it.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
As a person of colour, different colour to me, you say you've been watching the channel for a while, and I want your honest opinion on this, because it does matter to me, very much so. Do you find any of my rhetoric, anything that I say, do you ever feel that I give out any ignorant bias?
No. Maybe I'll make a couple of comments, actually. I don't think so. I really don't think so. But what I did see, Paul, but again, I know from your side, you're treading a very thin line here. What I do think, although, is that you were, if at all anything, you were on the other side. Sometimes you're trying to be too politically correct, even though you're speaking the truth. Too politically correct, that actually turns out to be not so sharp anymore. I
get that. I think
but I completely agree.
That's a great answer.
Where you are with the forces that are in operation, I completely agree. That's where you are. And this is where, through God's grace, one of my agenda is that, hey, we need to get back to a place where we can speak the truth.
Yeah.
We can disagree. I am a Christian, the commandment I've received from the Lord is to love people. You can be from anywhere in the world. I am commanded to love you. So you can be, I love Muslims, I love human beings. Anywhere, I can go anywhere and I can love people. I love Muslims, but the problem is Islam makes human beings behave in not so pleasant manner, in my view, again. And this is what I'm trying to deal with. So Paul, to reiterate, I think you're trying to be, in my view, at times I see it slightly being overcautious, which I completely agree. And this is part of what I'm working on. I think there is a lack of knowledge. I really, really think about Islam, there is a lack of proper educated awareness. And that is dangerous.
And I feel like with some of the education that you can now get from some of the images that we see in schools, they're now teaching about Islamophobia, which is only a coined phrase. It's not actually like an actual known terminology. It's only coined.
Yeah. And so the first book that I'm working on based on this, and this is where, I've been sort of eating, sleeping, breathing the Quran apart from my Bible also. The first book that I'm working on is Quran's hatred towards Jews, Christians, and others. Would you believe so far across the world there have been Christian apologists trying to raise this point up, and non-Christians, ex-Muslims, non-Christians, atheists, and so on. But they have always given an excuse. Oh no, it was only at that time. It was only all sorts of different excuses. And I'm researching through this to really present a solid case to say no. It's only a matter of time and space. When it's convenient, it'll show up. And I'm writing that book right now. So the education, the knowledge is missing. And I found that even in the last 1 month, month and a half, when people, I see people, precious people, people who are for whom this is England is the only home, UK is the only home. People who see problems and they feel problems, but they can't articulate problems. And unfortunately, coming from where I come from, I'll also put this, unfortunately, they show up with a beer can in the streets, and that's it. Yeah, you show up with a beer can in the streets, you're a criminal to the police. You don't show up with a beer can and you shout out an anti-Semitic slogan, you're not a criminal. This is how I am seeing it. I think a little bit, you're a criminal.
Yeah, a lot of other people are seeing it that way too. Look, I really appreciate you, Arul, coming on. Did I pronounce that right, Arul?
Arul, yeah, that's right. Can I?
Sure.
Apologies, Paul. I don't know if you can. I just take 2 more minutes?
Sure. Go ahead. Far away.
The particular topic at hand. I'll give you a simple example. The particular topic at hand, the face covering. So far, of course, you gentlemen have been speaking about security aspect, number one, which is very important, clearly. And equal treatment. Why do I receive this treatment when someone else can receive some discriminatory treatment? Those two are valid points, but those 2 points can be argued against with other things that can trump over, like right to religion or whatever else. The UN, and in the last 50 years we have come up with 60, 70 years, and I don't think those are my main issues. Even though they are practical issues, I don't think those are main issues. You know what the main issue is, which even Muslim women don't know yet? It's almost like, you are in a, a religious system where you are abused, in whatever way, but you don't even know. Because you don't know, you just say, no, everything is fine. It's like, you know what I mean? When you are in that system, you're going to say everything is fine. But in reality, what is happening is, I'll mention just a few facts and you will know where I'm going. These are facts, and so people can't argue against this. The facts are, number one, in the entire Quran, even though there are many, many names of men, there's only one name of a woman mentioned, and that is the name of Mary, mother of Jesus. No one else. No other woman mentioned by name in the entire Quran. Point number one. And there is a reason for that. Point number two, when you go through the Quran consistently, you time and time again realize this is a religion for men. It talks about how men should be fighting and all sorts of different things, and how they can get married and divorce and whatever else and so on. It's a religion centered. This is the Bible. On the other hand, is a very different story. There's mention about women with the women leaders, the women, all sorts of different significant women. Here you don't have any, and this is truly a men-centered religion. Number two. Number three, it's not just that, it goes beyond that to talk to really have some serious problematic issues, such as women are like tilth, agricultural ground. That's how men are supposed to view women. And therefore you can go in and irrigate. Can you imagine? Would the teaching system allow us to teach this sort of stuff outside of religion in our schools?
Yeah.
Of course we wouldn't, but it's part of religion. But I think no one has brought this up properly yet. Irrigation, the irrigable land, women, and you can beat them up, you can get married to your daughter-in-law, all sorts of abominable relationships. You can exchange wives. There
will be. Let me just come in there, but there will be arguments from the other side, and this is something that comes up quite often. That there are things in the Bible that wouldn't be acceptable to us today as well.
Lovely question, Paul. And this is where there is a lack of awareness on the other side also. And this is partly, something that we are trying to fill in. Believe it or not, there are apparent problems, but they're only apparent. Once you actually go through the details of the problems, you realize, no, it's not really a problem. For example, I'll give you one example. Our friend, lovely friend, top left, I didn't quite catch his name. He mentioned about, how the system works, and, so step by step, they first preach to you and then subjugate you and so on. In the Bible, in the entire Bible, you would not find one place where if you don't receive the religion, you will be killed. There's no one place. None. This is where people don't actually know the details of the case. Likewise, women are equal in the Bible. Women are, Adam was created and the woman was created. And when the woman was created, God actually said, I'm creating a woman who is a comparable helper to the man. A helper, comparable. So even though functionally different, status-wise, they are supposed to be comparable, and the woman is supposed to help the man, which means there are some areas where the men are incapable and the women come in to pitch in. We realize this, emotionally, whatever, we have different makes up and we fill in and so on. So long story short, Paul, my point would be very simply, believe it or not, right the way, there's an accusation. If you rape a woman, you need to marry. It's false accusation. It's not what the Bible says, but people don't read the Bible properly, and therefore they come to wrong conclusions. I can honestly, genuinely say that right the way through the Bible, this is my study Bible. I've gone through this multiple times. Right the way through Bible, even though there are plenty of situations where people think there are problems, when you actually dwell into the detail, we are not in a better moral place than what the Bible has suggested, in my view.
I get it. Arul, I'm going to have to let you go, my friend. We've got other people waiting to come in as well. I really appreciate. Sorry, say that again, Ben.
Can I have a clarification with Arul?
Yeah, sure.
So based on the bit you pointed out, which I said, because I believe I was referring to the Quran saying that, rather than, of course, the Bible saying about the offering to join a religion, and if no, then. But I just want to make sure that it was known that.
That's what I understood.
Yeah. So is that technically how it is? Or
it's slightly different. Slightly different. It's not a step-by-step offer. It's really a one-step. Essentially, the Quran anticipates that all of us, all of the world today, should have already become Muslims by 6th century AD. And therefore, we are already overdue. And therefore, they give one, of course, it doesn't happen exactly like that in the UK. But let's say if we are in Islamic State or so elsewhere where they are in thorough control. I'm not even talking about Saudi Arabia. where the people are the Islamic clergy are in thorough control. But when the Islamic clergy, especially the Sunni Islamic clergy, are thoroughly in control, the point is very simply one offer, don't receive, maybe 2 days, 3 days time, don't receive 2 or 3 options. You either are a slave to us, second class, we will subjugate you, or we will kill you, or you can run away. But where can you run?
Yeah.
It's one stage, just one stage. That's the minor clarification.
Right, guys,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
thank
have to bring this little conversation to a close there, because me and Danny have got to close the show up. Arul, thank you so much for coming on. You're welcome on any time. You have a great week.
Thank you.
Ben, you have been an absolute superstar. Thank you for coming on again. Really appreciate it, mate. Till next time. Danny, that turned out to be quite an interesting one.
Very interesting, mate. Yeah, and I love the fact that he goes to, Speaker's Corner. That's unpaid. That's pushing his beliefs. That's pushing his.
Well, look, what I think is good is that people get the chance to have their say on this channel.
Absolutely.
Cy Harris, thank you, Cy. Or go to a garage to get petrol with a crash helmet on. Thank you. Anglo-Saxon, I disagree, Paul. Keep the burkas, they're all mingers. I can tell you that's not true, to be fair. Vander Folks, hi guys, watching from the start. Good to see you both. Thank you, Vander. James, keep up the great work. B&D, thank you. Rob Quince, it's Muslim men suppressing women. Ban it. I'd love to have a view from a Muslim woman on this. That would be really nice. David J. Bisco, I don't think kids are particularly scared of people's fouls, as it's common these days. They are acclimatised to it. I agree they shouldn't be allowed. Look, they would be acclimatised to it in certain areas, but there are other areas where they wouldn't be. Julie Blackman, thank you very much. Friend was betting for removing face cover. Friend was
I think that's beaten.
Beaten.
I'm taken by a relative.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible. Well, that would explain why some women refuse. But I mean, look, I would love to hear from a Muslim woman who could explain why wearing the veil in the school playground environment is a must for them. And as usual, there's always two sides to a story. Just checking on a couple of messages. Danny, did you want to finish up with anything today? Did we get through most of it?
Cairns now planning on banning cars in Oxford Street in London, with the possibility of extending that to Tottenham Court Road. The retail stores will have aggravation getting deliveries then, won't they? I mean, what are you going to do? Walk for a mile down the road with 300 boxes to the big shows in the big stores,
Well, I'm hearing this 15p a mile is definitely coming in.
15p a mile, but is that going to be just central London, or is that going to be all over the UK? I mean, that's just going to put so many people out of business. It's unreal.
Well, I don't know if I can work this out. Let's just work something out a minute, Danny. Hold on a minute. Let me get my calculator.
Well, 10 miles is £1.50. 100 miles is 15 quid. 1,000
so if you're doing
miles is 150 quid. 1,000 miles.
So if you do, they reckon the average driver does 10,000 miles a year.
That's £15,000. Sorry, 150. That's £1,500 a year.
Yeah, 1,500 quid a year, as opposed to your vehicle tax, which is, I don't even know, because it varies, doesn't it?
A lot of people. I mean, that's got to be surely the size of your engine. There's got to be some. I mean, if that's the case, mate, well, that could be the nail in the coffin for the UK, as far as I'm concerned. I've got a friend of mine that sent me a little thing, right? I don't know whether he wanted me to read his name out or not. It's just
probably don't read his name out then.
No. Why are we talking about everyone else's sausages? Surely we should be addressing mash migration, because there is not mushroom left in the UK. Much room left in the UK. Mushroom. That Labour's problem. They end up with too much on their plate and try and appease everyone. They need to catch up and tackle knife crime. There comes a time when there needs to be a fork in the road and stop spoon feeding us gravy. That's their problem when you don't know your onions.
I think you need to read his name out after that.
I don't know whether he wants me to.
Just his first name would do. Give it, Mark.
Mark.
That was...
he used to live in the UK. He was in the Harlow area, and he's moved over to the United States now because he'd had enough of the situation, you know, over here. But Mark Jones, you know, I've read his name out, and I'm sure he'll be happy with that anyway.
Let me have a look. I'll tell you what, before we go, Danny, I've got another video here, which is positive, but also a little, I think, let's have a look at this video that a viewer sent in.
Okay, some real talk here. This is to Paul Thorpe, Richard Inman, Paz 49, Mayor Towsey, Jeff Taylor, all of those good souls fighting the good fight for the working class and the lower middle classes of the UK, people who just simply want equality across all communities, safety and economic prosperity, and just simply a future for everybody growing up in the UK, okay, right now, because that's been taken away very rapidly. But we've got reform, there's reform, there's UKIP on the rise again, there's Independence Party, there's Heritage Party. We just need to narrow it down to one political vehicle, okay? There's too much going on there, too many parties, so the vote's going to be split. But the most important thing is the movement, okay? Run by the people, for the people, the pledge, okay? Everyone needs to sign the pledge. But the problem we've got is that we've got uniteuk.org and we've got Unite in the Kingdom. So we need to narrow it down just to one movement. Is it Unite UK or is it Unite in the Kingdom? Come on.
Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate that. Now, uniteuk.org is my own personal website. Let me just clarify that. So uniteuk.org is my own personal website that is totally separate from anything else that belongs to me. Unite the Kingdom is the wider organisation. But the main thing is we're all rallying around the pledge. And if you haven't already signed the pledge, I'll pop that up on the bottom of the screen there. That is very, very important indeed.
Very much
and I thank you so much for signing the pledge.
And stay. Second.